This motherfucker has started he had this down for a little while and then he put it back up and he's called American Hostages 140 Days and Counting or something. These are the fucking Jan Sixers who are in there. And the irony is that I don't know why, I don't know. First of all, why only 104 days? Yeah. Plus a bunch of them have been like busted and put in and then released and then had other stuff. So I don't even know what the standard is on this fucking thing. It's just weird. But this is kind of a good example, again, of a talking point. That's all you need. I know. Watch. Biden created a new secret court to spy on Americans. That's pretty definitive, don't you think? Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Some of you are thinking, why, there is no way that headline matches up with the story that this motherfucker is going to tell. And he certainly can't be just falling into a pit of consistently lying in the lamest possible sense. Or could he? Check this out. Okay, and by the way, there's a little explainer under here that just when you thought the news couldn't get any crazier, Glenn reads a report from Politico on a new secret surveillance court that Biden's attorney general recently staffed, including a panel of judges, former AG Eric Holder of all people, but the story gets more insane. At first, the Data Protection Review Court appears to be related to the lucrative transatlantic data trade between companies. But then, Politico starts mentioning intelligence agencies, surveillance practices, and visas being denied. Plus, apparently the court's location is secret, its decisions are kept secret, and plaintiffs aren't even allowed to go to the court. Is this an admission of an international public-private partnership to spy on Americans via European agencies, and vice versa? And vice versa. And vice versa. Just whatever I said, just invert it. Motherfucker. Okay, so let's see if he's got this right.
This comes from Politico today. In a deal to let companies, and I'd like you to stop me when you don't understand something or you think you can explain it, Stu. Okay?
Okay, say this is American Hostages in Gaza, 104 days.
Hey, okay.
I'd like to, by the way, well, we'll leave this alone because he gives a fuck. But he's going to read a story to Stu, which means not only is Stu not reading the story himself, but he's getting it filtered through the porous cheese brain of Glenn Beck.
All right. So this one's a wild one. Mm-hmm. In a deal to let companies keep trading transatlantic data, the White House built an opaque new forum that could affect national security and privacy rights without any paper trail.
There's a lot of questions in that paragraph, but usually the opening one's setting you up for the explanation. So perhaps I should wait a second.
At an undetermined date, in an undisclosed location, the Biden administration began operating a secretive new court to protect Europeans' privacy rights under U.S. law. Known officially as the...
Wait, now Stu is starting to look a little sideways because he's getting the idea that A, Glenn is skipping around, but also starting to go, this doesn't sound as bad as I think it is. Or it might just sound like the laws and rules are different in another country than they are here and might interfere with commerce. And then they get into the paranoia.
Data Protection Review Court. It was authorized in an October 2022 executive order to fix a collision of European and American law that had been blocking the lucrative flow of consumer data between American and European companies for 3 years.
Okay, lucrative flow of data. Now, from that sentence, you would gather that it's the flow of data, the movement of that data back and forth, wherein lies the lucrative part, where you would get someone is making money. It's like there's a toll booth along the way of this movement of data, and somebody is making money off of either buying and selling that data or the transport of that data or both, right? That's where okay, here we go.
Now, this is because Europe has just put in a very strong privacy law. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they're enforcing those things. Well, we have a problem exchanging data now because of their privacy laws. The court's 8
Why would that be? Oh, because we're not talking about exchanging data like selling and buying. We're talking about storage. That when Europeans are on Facebook, the stuff that they put on Facebook is stored on servers in the United States. And the fact that they have those accounts and the like are sort of crucial to the business model of Facebook and other sites. Or if they use Amazon, for example, even overseas, the primary data center is there. So all the information, your credit card and all that kind of stuff are stored on US ones. And the, to keep from having to set up data centers in every fucking country, they have to have this kind of exchange rule. And the rules about them are, about social media versus commerce are very different. And each country in the EU has a slightly different variant, but the EU struck this big singular one. And it's really about storage. It's going to be stored. Where's it going to be stored? If it's stored in the United States, then, there has to be the same rules about privacy online. That's
judges, 8 judges were named last November.
By the way, this is all window dressing. This whole court is window dressing. It is just to let the EU off the hook for the storage issue.
Including, Attorney General Eric Holder. He's trustworthy.
Oh, good.
Its existence has allowed companies to resume the lucrative transatlantic data trade with the blessing of EU officials.
Okay, so they saw the executive order and the creation of it, and they're cool with it, and it fits the law.
What is the lucrative transatlantic data trade?
Yeah, explain it. Explain it to us.
No, they say that it's companies, but then
they say that it's companies. Is that what they say? They say that it's companies. So governments don't make money off of stuff. It's only lucrative if it's a company, or this is just stupid. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Just listen to the whole story. I mean, they say that's companies trading data, or like, for instance, Facebook having servers here.
Right. That's what this is about.
With European data on their servers.
Right. It's that simple.
Okay.
So you could argue maybe that this needs to be sorted out because there's nothing nefarious going on here, right? It's just
why the secrecy?
Very
because it's about their privacy. So you can't you can't sift through people's pictures and their private documents and their private information. It's the same reason you have a special master in a court. Never mind. Like they're going to fucking...
It's strange. Also, did we have we cover the news every day. Did we have a new bill that created this court?
No.
Was there a new discussion? What was the debate?
No.
I don't remember the Senate.
Order. A dictate.
A dictate from... It can create
president.
New courts?
New courts. Now, the next sentence...
By the way, I understand. You're like, you ever like check your paranoia boner and you're like, nope, still nothing. It's just not doing it for me the way it used to. You know how Glenn feels.
Because you understand clearly what we're talking about, right?
You don't understand clearly what you're talking about.
The next sentence of this article is, the details get blurry after that.
Okay, so what we just had was
That's
the
crystal clear.
focus part.
Yes. Okay, it's going to get a little blurry now.
Okay.
The court's location is a secret.
Okay.
The Department of Justice will not say if it has taken a case yet.
Why would you...
First of all, why would they say they've taken a case if it's a secret court?
Hide the location of a court that is...
Because it's not a physical courtroom. It's a digital space. It's dealing with digital stuff. They're reviewing it separately on if anybody brings a lawsuit about privacy, this is where it will go through. It just hasn't happened yet because nobody gives a fuck. Nobody in Europe gives a goddamn that their Facebook pictures are stored on servers in Arizona.
Overseeing the data transfers. What on earth? Why would that need to be a secretive location?
No idea.
It doesn't have to be secret. It just isn't a physical space. It's done remotely. That's why there's no single room. I'm sure they'll meet in a fucking conference room about shit if they ever have to.
Though the court has a clear mandate ensuring Europeans their privacy rights under U.S. law, its decisions will also be kept a secret from both the EU residents petitioning the court and the federal agencies tasked with following the law.
Wait.
Right. And the reason is because if they argue yes or no, that's that. Not why, not how, not what their standards are. Basically, they'll just go, okay, well then, fuck you. You can't have a Facebook. Facebook will have to drop your account if that's your problem with it, because we can't stop it. It's digital. There's no way to track the back and forth of which server your shit is on at any given point. Fuck, the way bits work, half the time your files are on multiple servers held together loosely by bit connections.
So someone in the EU comes to the American court that...
Oh, we're going to get to the actual article in a second.
The secret court.
That they don't know where the location is.
Right.
Or
I don't know how to
anything really about.
They don't go there and stand in front of it. Because it's done. It's like writing a letter to customer service or sending an email.
Don't know anything.
So when that happens, which I would assume would be very infrequently,
yes.
But when they do, they go through some sort of case and then they don't get to know the result of the case?
Well, it's not only that. Plaintiffs are also not allowed to appear in person and are represented...
Well, how could they? They don't know where it is.
Correct. And are represented by a special advocate appointed by the U.S. Attorney General.
Okay, so...
None of them are American citizens.
Hey, I've got a problem with...
None of them are American citizens.
My data,
right.
And I go to this court that I don't know where it is.
And you can't actually go to the court.
I can't actually... I'm not physically go. I just
and by the way, these assholes, just so you know what they're arguing for, they're arguing that foreign citizens that sue the United States under privacy laws because Facebook stores their shit on a server in the United States instead of the EU, and they were engaged in child sex trafficking or violent acts or whatever, and they serve a warrant for that information on the servers of Facebook because it was a first Facebook account, and those people are saying, you don't have the right to access my account shit where I was selling a child because it shouldn't have been stored on the servers inside the United States, and you wouldn't have had access to it if it was stored in fucking Belgium or Russia on a Facebook server or someplace to make them buy server space in countries that are just fucking, that have no extradition or that won't participate in international sex and drug trafficking, law enforcement activities. That's what this is about. So that those people can go, fruit of the poison tree, you don't have the right to the information on the crime I committed because the shit is stored in the United States and it shouldn't have been.
I contact them.
These people are arguing on behalf of sex traffickers, just for the record, and drug traffickers and bomb, like arms salesmen and that kind of shit, arms dealers.
Create a case and they assign an advocate for me to argue the case, but
when you're not even a U.S. citizen, isn't that nice? We do assign an advocate for you that will actually adjudicate the fucking thing.
Can't know where it is, when it's going on.
And as a U.S. citizen, you have an entire court system to deal with this. You already have laws in place. You already have protections in place about whether or not they have the Fourth Amendment being primary, that they can't, unlawful search and seizure that protects you. But there are going to be pushes back and forth between, I was expecting more privacy to hide my nefarious activities in Europe, and you don't have those protections for me in the United States, where I was, a participant in a crime, and therefore you don't have the right to bring those to the fucking International Criminal Court or wherever the fuck this is, wherever Interpol is dragging my dumb ass.
And what the outcome is?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. Mm-hmm. This is just to restore some trust.
Oh, good.
Critics worry that it'll tie the hands of intelligence agencies with an unusual power. It can make binding...
Now, this is the part where you could see Stu is getting confused, because he was on... This is where there's moments where you're like, I thought I was on the right side of this, and then Glenn kept talking.
Decisions on surveillance practices with federal agencies, which won't be able to challenge those decisions. Now,
so internal U.S. intelligence agencies will not be able to challenge the privacy rulings of this court, nor will they have access, and this is one of the reasons why it might be secret, because even the FBI and the CIA and Homeland Security and all these folks will have to operate through a court in their relation to information that is from a foreign country that is stored in the United States and the privacy laws back and forth. And they have to, otherwise, the other option, of course, is to, I suppose, move all the servers for these companies into other countries and let them make that money, and which is enormous and all that.
I thought this was about corporate data transfers.
Hey, what does this have to do with intelligence agencies?
Until
Because people use Facebook and WhatsApp and all this shit to fucking...
there's some clarity on how that's going to operate, I think you could expect the intelligence community to be nervous about what it might mean, especially since it's not even clear what its caseload is going to look like.
Because they can't know. Because how many international drug and sex traffickers are going to bring a lawsuit based on the European privacy rules about data that got them busted, that's stored on a server in the United States, which is a participant in the International Criminal Court or Interpol, and fights against international drug and sex and arms trafficking.
For the European citizens, it's supposed to help. The picture is just as murky. Private advocates argue that it will be nearly impossible for European residents to bring cases, given that they will have to know that they're being surveilled to file a complaint.
Right.
Quote, I don't think anyone sitting around in Spain is unhappy about his visa being denied and is going to think that it could be based on data transfers to the U.S. and go through this process.
Wait a minute. I thought we were talking about corporations trading data. What would that have to do with a visa being denied from the government?
It's weird, huh?
It feels like, and you tell me if I'm wrong here.
It feels like they're trying to stop terrorists from getting into the country, and these motherfuckers think that no one should be allowed to cross the southern border, period, because they're all fucking terrorists.
But it feels like what's actually happening is that companies, let's say in the United States, are capturing data, and then EU governments are buying the data from the companies in the United States. Or the opposite, right? Where
it's illegal for us to spy on Europeans.
Right.
Or, on Americans. And it's illegal for them to spy on Europeans. So we spy on the Europeans, they spy on the Americans.
And it goes through companies that are just in a international data trade, which is quote unquote lucrative.
Correct.
No, not correct.
For the business community, however, the court has already done its first job. Its very existence allowed EU regulators to finally bless the resumption of the cross-border data transfers.
Oh, good.
Now, I'm not kidding. Here's the next sentence.
Again, I don't know if this is just a shitty article, like how poorly written it is, but the fact that these two dunderheads are trying to wrestle with the content of it and are so fucking way off, this is it's like seeds of paranoia.
What happens next?
I'm sorry I dragged some of you into this, but we've got to see it through.
Or perhaps is already happening, is far less clear.
So wait, the part before this was the clear part. I thought
no. The
two
part
parts before.
All right. Now, real quick, if I may, love you guys. Let me see if I have. Here it is. This is the article that they're talking about. Right here. This guy right here. There you go. Inside Biden's secret surveillance court. In a deal to let companies keep trading transatlantic data, the White House built an opaque new forum that could affect national security and privacy rights without any public paper trail. Also, it's entirely digital. That's why there's no public data paper trail. Also, it's about the privacy of individual citizens. So what the fuck do you think they're going to do? Print out all the private documents, emails, pictures, or what have you, of the citizens that are dealing, that they're dealing with in this court, and store it fucking somewhere? And if you do take it and you keep it in a physical form and there's a paper trail, can't somebody see it and violate the privacy of that person if they're not legally okay, never mind. All right. The bottom part of this is the court's 8 judges. They go through this. Details get blurry after the court's location is a secret. They'll not say if it's taken a case yet or when it will. Indeed, if it will. though the court has a clear mandate ensuring Europeans their privacy rights under U.S. law. Its decision will also be kept a secret from both EU residents petitioning the court and the federal agencies tasked with following the law. So you'll find out by what shows up in your court documents as far as what evidence can be used against you when you're busted for child sex trafficking. Until there's some clarity, and that's what this is largely about. And this is also about like terrorists trying to enter the country. If they check somebody out who's asking for a visa, there's all sorts of new like small print in visa applications that goes, we get to skim your social media, by the way, and and look at what you say on there to make sure you're not coming into the country for nefarious reasons. And people go, yep, and they check it off, even if whether they mean well or not. And so they get to look. The State Department gets to go, okay, you're not an American citizen. I'm going to give a once over. Okay, we'll stay away from the pictures as long as we don't see anything really scary in there. We'll have our AI scan the pictures for any codes, so we're not just looking at the nudes you're passing around. But if you're exchanging your favorite passages from the fucking Turner Diaries or something, it might affect whether or not you get a fucking visa, or you're selling copies of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion or some shit. I don't think anybody sitting around Spain is that is unhappy about his visa being denied is going to think that it could be based on data transfers to the U.S. and go through this process. An Austrian privacy advocate whose lawsuits ended a previous transatlantic data deal. And by the way, this is the guy who sued it. And also, Austria is one of the most opaque fucking countries for businesses, especially. It's hilarious. For the business community, however, the court has already done its first job. Its very existence allowed EU regulators to finally bless the resumption of cross-border data flows last summer. Now, you'll notice cross-border data flows. That seems pretty direct, right? This is the Politico article.
Quote-unquote lucrative.
And it's illegal for them to stay
in the United States.
Go through this process.
Wait a minute. I thought
Beijing will have to know that they're being surveilled to file a complaint.
Right.
And that it's allowed practices with federal agencies. This is just to restore some trust.
That I don't know where you are of the case?
Well, it's not only that. Plaintiffs are also not allowed to appear in
transfers. What on earth is overseeing the data transfer?
Not say if it has taken a case yet.
Why would you hide the location of a court that is overseeing the data transfers? What on earth? Why would that need to be a...
Now, do you notice the difference between them using the word data transfer versus data flows? Do you see that? Does the use of the word transfers in particular? Because I'm pretty sure he fucking misreads it.
After that,
hold on.
For new courts.
Now,
the next sentence, because you understand clearly what we're talking about, right? The next sentence of this article is the details get blurry after that.
Right, okay, so that what we just had was the
crystal clear.
Focus part.
Yes. Okay, it's going to get a little blurry now.
Okay.
The court's location is a secret. The Department of idea, though the court has a clear
I got to find the place
allowed to appear in person and are represented.
Well, how could they? They don't know where it is.
Correct. And are represented by a special advocate appointed
so it's after the
by the U.S. Attorney General.
Okay, so, and what the outcome is?
Yes. It can make binding decisions. Private advocates argue that it will be nearly impossible and go through this process.
Wait a minute. I thought being wrong here. But
it's weird, huh? Is going to think that it could be based on data transfers to the U.S. and go through this process.
Wait a minute. I thought
we
were talking about corporations trading data. What would that have to do with a visa being denied from the government?
So weird.
It's weird, huh?
So he uses the guy advocating against it from Austria uses the same transfer language. The article. Let's see if he reads this part correctly. Hold on. Because the article changes its mind about that stuff too.
It feels like, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, but let's say
on European,
quote lucrative.
Correct. For the business community, however, the court has already done its first job. Its very existence allowed EU regulators to finally bless the resumption of the cross-border data transfers.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Now,
look at that.
I'm not kidding.
Now-
Here's the next sentence.
No. Hang on. Do you notice that he's reading it? He's reading the same article we are. And he throws the word transfer in instead of flows. It's a subtle thing. But this is, he did that on purpose. And that's because his entire business model is fucking paranoia. Oy. All right. I just, that part hung up for me. Okay. Anyways, the point being is that, can I just, we'll speed to the end of this. Because
Between the U.S. and the EU alone, intelligence agencies.
And this is the part where Stu thinks that he's like all of a sudden doesn't understand. He's like, I think I'm on the wrong side of this.
And in both a 2015 and 2020 ruling, a European court barred companies outright from transferring or processing EU citizens' data in the U.S., or at least until the citizens had a way to pursue their rights. So they can now take the data out. They couldn't before. But now that they've done this secret court, they can take the data out because apparently people in Europe will know when they're being surveilled, when their data has been used against them, and they'll have a secret court to go. Well, and that's their recourse. They won't know if anything's been done.
Yeah, this seems like one of those things that in 5 years, when we find out they've been doing it all the time, they will say, well, no one ever asked in court. We got that court set up.
Yeah.
And no one ever showed up.
Yeah.
It's weird. We had like no cases for 5 years. It seemed like no one had a problem with what was going on.
Or all the people that they were dealing with where this came up at all were the rare occasion where a child sex trafficker decided to use some obscure European privacy law to weasel their way out of being prosecuted. Now, before we finish up for the evening, I've got radio in the morning, and then I'm going to race to San Francisco tomorrow afternoon and do the show, and then fly back immediately on Sunday morning. I got a whirlwind in for the Sexy Liberal show tomorrow. If you're in the San Francisco area, you want to come down and see us, please do. That said, I know some of you hate Glenn stuff, and I will try to find another source that has this dipshittery on parade as clearly as he does, right? He literally he's so stupid and ham-handed in the handling of these talking points that it's really easy to make, because a lot of other people will try to fluff it up or cover it in shit, right? They'll try to, they're a little better at as orators or as hosts to kind of obscure what they're saying, but they're saying the exact same thing that he's saying. And ultimately, the whole purpose of this is to ride the paranoia train and milk these people that are on it for everything they have. Every time you turn around, it is some sort of thing like the government is coming for you. Even in this case, where this has nothing to do with U.S. citizens, has everything to do with foreign citizens who want visas to come into the United States. This is a fantastic example of these guys just decrying an open border and essentially wanting one. They want what would effectively be a digital open border in that regard. But mainly, they want to protect Donald Trump. They want to protect the Trumps and the NRA when they're getting Russian money, all that shit. They start getting nervous. Like, wait a minute, you can start watching sketchy foreign organizations. Well, that's at the Blaze, that's like 20% of our subscribers. What if you find out that a bunch of people who watch our shit are actually, trying to negotiate their way into the country to do some awful, and we've been partly our message is created by audience capture from a group of effectively propagandists or terrorists or just malign actors from other countries that are trying to undermine the integrity of our society. which they are. I mean, the Russia and the NRA is one of the greatest examples of that, because Russia pays the NRA all during, for like I think it started like the second year of Obama, all the way through Trump, until they started to fall under the weight of their own bullshit, and too many people and sanctions were, there was too much attention being paid to Russian money being shifted around. But you ever notice how the NRA would show up in a town right after a kid was killed? Right after there was a school shooting, right after a church shooting, they would have like a gun show specifically sponsored by the NRA, and they'd have speakers and all that kind of stuff. Do you think the average gun owner, genuinely, the average gun owner would think that up, would think that's necessary or a good idea? But the money they were getting from, especially from these, like from Maria Butina and all these motherfuckers, was predicated on the idea you do that, you make sure you advocate, and they, through pushing the most extreme people in the party and giving them more money and lifting them up, and so therefore shifting the entire organization as far right as it can possibly go, and making sure, like, look, the money is predicated essentially on, you better fucking bring this fight in the most awkward, uncomfortable, bullshit way to kind of, again, cause effectively chaos in the country, because the Russians don't give a fuck about American gun rights. And if we were ever under the rule of Vladimir Putin, I'm sorry to tell you, maggots, but you would have no gun rights. The idea that you want the same kind of rights that a Russian would have, or you think they're advocating for those kind of rights in their country, you're fucking nuts. If you buy 10 bullets and you go hunting and you fire, you better come back with, if you fire 2 shots, you better come back with 2 shell casings and 8 bullets. Otherwise, you're in deep shit. And the idea that those people are having groups of the NRA to come over, and then they're using them as a conduit to pay these Republicans and to help get them elected, and especially the ones that are chaos agents across the country, or like fucking shoot a fucking Prius with a sniper rifle or some nonsense and blow it up, which is, again, like, I don't know why you would have an electric car blow up like it's full of fucking gasoline. But anyways, I suppose it's an explosive bullet. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But the point is, the NRA, Russian money through the NRA to like right-wing spoilers who not only fuck up our electoral system and our democracy and all this stuff, but totally fucked the Republican Party. Right? So, and none of them saw it coming. And they're not going to, because you can see how fucking stupid Glenn and Stu are and their ilk. And maybe, in all fairness, maybe they're not stupid. Maybe they simply know what side of the bread the butter is on. And in this particular case, Glenn Beck is aware, like everybody else, of like international support for religious communities and Christian organizations in the United States that are actually a front for right-wingers, and they flood money in, and they only go to churches or people who speak on behalf of those churches that will advocate for the most like extreme right-wing agendas to destabilize, cultural issues and cause interpersonal fights amongst Americans, because that's the goal. The goal is not the NRA creates a better situation for those who love the Second Amendment. No, it's to get the most radical, idiotic fuckos in charge of being the spokesperson for, or showing up at these events, or even organizing these events right after somebody, like a bunch of kids, have been killed. And therefore, what's the reaction from everybody else who doesn't like guns and stuff? Instead of everything's a slippery slope. We got to shut these fuckers down. We are going to take your guns. And then now we're fighting about that, when that's not even going to solve the problem. And it never was the intent. The whole point is to get both sides fighting back and forth over this thing. And that's what this is. That's a great example of why, that's precisely why Glenn Beck and Stu are nervous about the idea that maybe, just maybe, the intelligence services in the U.S. government are kind of paying attention to the exchange between, European criminals and oligarchs, and who they might be communicating with and sending money to in the United States, especially when those people are coming over here and ending up pretending to be a Rothschild or advocating for gun rights that they don't even have in their own fucking country. Yes, the Tea Party model. It's exactly that. So I just wanted to like put that on everybody's radar because it's a dumb rubber mallet version of this, but that's where their paranoia comes from. And increasingly, one of the biggest problems the Republicans have in the election cycle coming up is that money's gone. The NRA money that was flowing into Republican coffers, never mind the money that Trump is running off with. The money that Republicans are going to have to buy ads and do all that shit, so much of it has evaporated in the last 7 years, and especially in the last 3 because of sanctions. Oh, Richard's live? Well, then I'll cut off right now. Army Major's over there. I'm going to send you guys over there. That's fantastic. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. I'll see you guys in the morning for Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide. And then immediately after the show, I'll race to the airport. Wish me luck.